This Todd-versation is brought to you in part by Calavo Growers, the family of fresh.
Hey there, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or wherever you are, wherever you are across this planet. We so appreciate you being here, listening to what we're up to and bringing out some good things, trying to inspire, change the world, do some heavy lifting, get conversations started, need to be had. Absolutely thrilled today with my guest. So stoked to have her. So excited to talk about this subject. This is something y'all know I believe in wholeheartedly, how we're taking care of our kids at school. What do we need to be doing? How do we change that narrative? So everybody, please give it up for the co-founder and executive director for Wellness in the School. Please welcome Nancy Easton. Welcome.
Thank you, Todd. Thanks for having me. And just a reminder, it's Wellness in the Schools, plural.
Oh, you're right. Did I leave off the S?
You did.
What the hell? Okay. I'm fired. That's it. I'm fired.
We got an hour of this. You might as well start right, or I'll start to get uncomfortable when you say it wrong, you know?
Well, I don't even know why I said school. It's right in front of me. It's not like
there are a lot of schools. There are a lot of schools.
Well, we're going to talk about that, and I'm excited. I can't wait to show that comparison from there to now. We're going to do all that. Yeah. It's super fun. But like I said, it is such an honor to have you here, to talk about the work that you're doing, how you've been inspired by this work, where your journey's taken you, and more importantly, something I know you believe in, all in, hard in the paint, about how we're going to help our kids eat better, learn better, be better, and what that really means for our global community, our future, the cost of healthcare, all these things that you want to draw into this conversation. But boy, it's so important that we look back and start worrying about our kids and how they're eating on a much larger scale. So I'm just happy to have you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
This is going to be a blast.
We're both standing. This is good.
Yeah, I got to stand. There's too many. However many consonants run together for whatever I have, they just don't work sitting down trying to shoot the show. There's too much energy. Yeah. So before we get going though, like I do with all my guests, I just love it if you wouldn't mind just tell everybody a little about your journey and bio and who you are a little bit, because I think when it comes from your heart, it's so much more impactful.
I can do that. Although, Todd, I do have about 60 years of a journey. So how much time do we got?
You take all the time you want. Just get to the good stuff. We don't need to hear about, starting with the paper route and stuff. I mean, which is great, which I'm inspired by that, but whatever you want.
Okay. Great. Thank you. I appreciate it. No, but to be fair, as probably with most of your guests, my upbringing is really important and plays into kind of what I'm doing today. So I'll do that quickly. I'll go back to that somewhat quickly, and then I'll get to where I am. But so I'm born and raised in Miami, Florida. And actually, my parents are from Pittsburgh. But by the time they were 23, had 3 kids. And so my dad was going to University of Miami, and they lived in what was then the married dorms at the University of Miami. I'm not sure if you knew those kind of things existed in the 60s.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's still happening today, but I guess they're, not supporting families who have kids. But anyway, we won't get into that. My parents had 3 kids. He was still in college. I was born there. They decided when he graduated, hey, it's much warmer in Florida than it is in Pittsburgh. My mom found a cute little home in Key Biscayne, Florida, and that's where I was raised. And I share all of this because being raised in Florida, we ran around outside and played all day long. And that's what we did. It wasn't like, oh, you're a structured sport, do this now. I did, we did do the local athletic club sports. I did play sports in college, year round. But mostly it was running around and playing. And I know we're talking mostly about food today, but the sports aspect, the fitness aspect is equally as important for me as a person, as well as an educator and a founder of an organization. But I also, in addition to the running around being healthy, my mom was fondly called Nature Lady by our friends. And that was not only because she, was brown bread back in the 60s and 70s when, white bread was a thing, Cara brownies, fruit trees all over our yard, and convincing the local athletic club to sell grapefruit and oranges instead of candy at the local sales. She was way ahead of her time.
I love it.
Also had chickens, and mind you, this is a beach community, barefoot beach. It was not a farm community. She had, people raise chickens now, but she raised chickens in our backyard, so we'd have farm fresh eggs. Problem was, she finally had to build a chicken coop because the possum were chasing the chickens, so she built the coop. The possums got in, the chickens didn't get out. But anyway, that's my farm fresh egg story. But
I love it.
fast forward this upbringing, which was, privileged, decidedly middle class back when this country actually had a middle class, right?
Yeah.
But but very privileged compared to certainly the students who we're working with and feeding now, and athletic, outdoors, and nature lady. So that's what I had, and that's all I knew. So fast forward to, yes, we went to college, played 3 sports and all of that. My background is an educator. I'm an athlete and educator. I'm not a chef. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm a health coach. But fast forward to me running a school as a kid in my 20s, and I'd watch children come into school with a bag of chips and a bottle of soda. That
Yeah.
was breakfast. Their lunch was a overly processed school meal. Their recess period was very sedentary. And what I say is that I saw the impact of poor diet and lack of physical activity on children's ability to learn. This was the 90s, mid 90s. Not too many people were talking about the childhood obesity epidemic. Michelle Obama was not yet our first lady and really bringing it to the attention of many. But I saw it firsthand. And so I set out with this big, bold vision. And I also, sorry, to tie back to my journey, I compared this to my own life. I'm like, I grew up running around and playing and eating well, and I didn't understand why this wasn't happening,
Elsewhere.
so many years later. And frankly, that ties to the actual statistics around obesity. When I was a kid, it was 5%. It's now 40%, right? So something changed in our country, and I lived it, and I saw it, and it was a problem that I was going to fix. So I've now had my blinders on to all the many other problems in this country, but we'll start with that.
Well, but quite frankly, that problem you're working to solve is 50 other problems.
Thank you.
That's the thing.
Thank you.
It's not one problem. It leads to 50 or 60 or whatever the number you want to throw at, but it's just not one. And I think that's the importance of this conversation.
Thank you. 100%.
Without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, fascinating journey. And you remind me so much when I hear what you said, hey, being a kid the same as us, it's like whatever sport was in season, the sport you played and the front door was unlocked. It's a different world. But one of the things I think is so pivotal about what you shared is, as I say it all the time, is that first rung of the ladder, right? That is the most important rung. And that it was your upbringing, what your mom did and what you saw and what was put into your heart, put into your mind. And then that strong base is what's, I think, helped you climb, kept you when it was wobbly, getting to the point where you are now. Because when we get drilled down into this a little bit in a couple seconds, people are going to be blown away, I think, what you all are up to. And I'm excited to share the journey. Before we get into that, I want to frame up a little bit, if we can, kind of what's going on out there. And so I want to start with this because I think it's just a really powerful statement. And I think I'd love to hear what you have to say on it. Okay. What does a healthy America starts with our kids mean to you?
Well, first of all, we are living in an unhealthy America, and I'm pretty sure your viewers know the statistics and data around this, and I don't want to throw them out lightly without that data being connected to people, to humans. Yeah. But if we continue, and I also want to say that whenever I talk about the obesity epidemic or the related illnesses, the health, heart disease, which is our number one killer in this country, diabetes, strokes, cancers. I want to be very clear from the onset, and we'll talk about this probably more going on. This is not a shame and blame thing. This is not like, oh, this kid made this choice or this parent made this choice. And to your point, when we talk about this is a layer of many problems. This is a systemic issue. This is an access issue, an availability issue, a cost issue, which is why we work in schools. So let me answer your question, because children have access to that. So I love to always frame it as a positive thing. This is awesome that we can change the trajectory of someone's life, because heart disease, diabetes, strokes, cancers related to all of this are 5 to 10, and you can check my statistics, but I think it's 5 to 10% are actually genetics. The rest of those diseases is 100% diet, exercise, and environment. Again, not a choice for so many Americans, but it's still diet, exercise. So we can change that. All of us can work in schools to make a difference for so many children. So what a healthy America starts with kids. This generation, our generation is I don't want to say we're a lost cause, but it's not looking good. We're at about half of us, right? 50% are already at risk of heart disease. But we have kids, unfortunately, in New York City, I'll give you a statistic. 1 out of every 5 little babies, little kindergartners, pre-kindergartners enter kindergarten already at risk of heart disease, diabetes, cancers related to obesity already. So
Right.
we're already lots working against us. But if we can start young, if we can start, as you said, embed those privileged values that I was given at a young age, and the only place I know is schools, we can make a difference. So it starts with our kids. I won't want to sound cliche, they're our future. We've got to raise a healthy generation if we're going to have a workforce, if we're going to have less of a burden on our economy. You mentioned it's $250 billion a year on obesity related illnesses. So we got to start with the babies to help them make it, be a different generation, to tilt those data points back from 5% when I was little to 40%. Let's go back to 5.
Thanks for joining the Todd-versation. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hello, this is Jesse from Superior Fresh. Check us out at www.superiorfresh.com to learn more about how we raise our Atlantic salmon without the use of hormones, antibiotics, or pesticides. Our Heart Check certified salmon boast 2 times the omega-3s of other salmon and are fed an organic and non-GMO diet. Our fish thrive in water naturally filtered by our USDA certified organic greens, which allows us to recycle 99.9% of our water. This is salmon as it should be. Order Superior Fresh salmon direct to your home by shopping with us online. And listeners of this episode can use the discount code TLC15 to receive 15% off your order. We make it easy to get the best salmon in your homes and on your plates. We've got you covered. Superior salmon equals superior taste. Shop now and use code TLC15 for 15% off through the end of the month.
When you start to peel back that onion and you start to look at those statistics, it's crazy. And I think, you brought this up and it was kind of leading to my next question about, why does it matter that we worry about this? Why is children's, childhood obesity something we need to worry about? Because I think sometimes you get to the point where it's like, well, why do I need to worry about it? I don't have kids. My kids are 16 and 23, right? It's like, I don't need to worry about that kid anymore in elementary school. The problem is that kid in elementary school will eventually be your problem if we don't make these changes. And I think we have to start thinking more about that in a global community type of a way that, it's going to take all of us to lift where we are today. And I think we've got to start to embrace that. And that's something I just keep trying to keep thinking about. It's like, somebody shared something with me and I keep holding on to it. It's like, I think we need to stop being like a Brillo pad and all start to act more like a sponge. I think we'll do a lot better.
You're right. And you said it, nothing else matters if we don't have our health. I often say, think about for we privileged healthy folks, think about the 1 to 2 days a year, maybe the week in the year when you don't feel great, you can't get up and you can't get out of bed. That happens. You can't be productive in your job. You can't be a good parent because you feel like shit. Imagine feeling that way every single day of your life. And that is really about how half of America feels.
Yeah. But they don't know it. They don't know it anymore too. Yeah. They don't, that's how I feel today.
Or take the pill or whatever to feel better. But imagine that. And that's why, to your point, this is our healthcare system is an economic crisis and we're all going to be paying for it. So sorry, I'm preaching here. I get a little excited.
No, get excited. Look, this is the reason why, I wanted you to come join me is because this message, look, I firmly believe you could tell this message 3 times a day for the next 10 years, and it's still not enough to get the point across. I mean, we have to keep beating this drum. And, I don't want to sound, a little bit of a hard ass, but, 50-year-old people, it is what it is, folks, right? You're either in or you're out. But we're talking about people that are making choices for 2, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds that are causing these problems. And this, to your point of access, these things that we have to start to address, because to your point, it's domino, and it's been dominoing for a very long time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so tell me why, let's get into this. I want people to hear this from your perspective, because I think this is, why do healthy, bodies equal a healthy mind with our kids?
Well, I mean, it goes back. I feel like I'm answering the same question in a different way. It definitely, and I apologize for that, but it definitely goes back to, really, if we wake up the way one wakes up on a bad day, every day, we can't think, we can't work, we can't be a good friend. We really can't do any of that. And and so we, it's our tag, healthy bodies equal healthy mind. It's sort of simple and duh, like it's all what we put into our body is going to make such a difference, and not and how we work and how we play and our moods, right? And our energy levels, all of those things. And we haven't really, we're tiptoeing on this a little bit, but what we work on, we hire chefs, not nutritionists. And those chefs are, their tag, feed kids real food. And listen, all food is processed. The minute you take lettuce and chop the head off of it and wash it, you've processed it. But I'm talking about the overly processed foods that, the chips, the cookies, the brownies, the packaged, those packaged foods that most of our government dollars, again, which is why it's not shame and blame, most of our government dollars go to subsidizing. So we're subsidizing corn, and this, we're subsidizing wheat, we're subsidizing soil at the tune of $25 billion a year.
Billions and billions and billions.
Yeah. And guess what? That's not even going to feeding people. It's feeding animals in factory farms, and it's for meat, and it's going to make these Twinkies and that crap, excuse me. And that's what our babies are being fed. So then their metabolic system, and I'm no doctor, but here's how I often say it to families and people that we work with, the metabolic system gets so messed up that they can't even then process a nice piece of lettuce that I just talked about. So it's and I often say, to your point, if we were to eat a chicken finger, sorry to demonize those chicken fingers, but chickens don't have fingers. If we were to eat a chicken finger today and die tomorrow because of it, maybe people would listen, to your point. But it's happening over this time, and it's when these children become adults that now all of a sudden their blood pressure is here and their risk of heart attack, and they have this cancer and that cancer, right? But it doesn't happen until later. So it's yeah.
Well, and I want to come back around to something you said. I think it's important. I want to bring this up. I don't think people necessarily understand, or maybe they have, maybe they do, but what I call the big three. And that food companies use the big three. So that's going to be salt, sugar, fat, in some combination that actually triggers a result and triggers our brains to crave exactly what they just gave us back. It's almost like you've got somebody whispering in your ear through your taste buds. Yeah. And it's dangerous. And it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Which is why people
so
snap.
Addicted. Yeah. Give me more. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I absolutely agree. And I think it's important people recognize it's like, oh, really? They're doing that with food. And they're doing that specifically with food that kids eat because they want customers to, they want customers at 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old. It's how it works, right? Yeah. And we have to continue to talk about that, especially when it comes to our kids, because again, they're not really in a position to make a choice like we are at age 50, age 30, age 20, age 15, right? Their choices are being made for them.
And also, some 50-year-olds and 40-year-olds and 15-year-olds also can't make choices because it's a cost issue. Because that Twinkie has been subsidized by, Uncle Sam or whoever is subsidizing it up there, that's so much cheaper than that head of broccoli. And if you're on a check for a month and that check's going to run out, you're not going to experiment on kale. You're going to buy what's cheap and easy, and that's not your fault. No. So I wanted to share one more thing that I often say. Sorry,
please.
No, go. You can tell I'm not one to demonize. So this whole thing, and this is what happens in our country and maybe in our world, this was actually a good idea back in the 70s when women were getting into the workforce. Awesome. Like, I'm glad that happened. It's benefited me. And guess what? Women were also the ones at home making dinner. So these companies that you're demonizing, which is fine, wanted to make it easy for us, right? They wanted to make it easy for my mom to go to the workforce. So here, heat this up. But then it's filled with all this crap that my grandmother couldn't recognize as food, which is what you shouldn't be eating, to preserve it so that mom doesn't have to go grocery shopping every day, right? So I want to say, because I want, everyone has a good intention. That's good. I want to say the intentions were decent. The intentions were to help moms be efficient, or moms and dads, maybe if they were single dads, to be efficient, to be able to feed your family and also have a job and whatever, and necessity to have people got to work. So there was some sense of like, okay, but now how do we do that and also keep us healthy and not kill us, because we're killing us.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. Well, let's get in it. So tell me, what is wellness in the schools?
Okay. Oh yeah, there's that. So Wellness in the Schools is a national nonprofit with the big, bold vision to eliminate obesity-related illnesses that begin in childhood. And we do that by teaching children healthy habits to learn and live better. So there are multiple programs. I like to describe it as sort of both top down and bottom up. We are incredibly grassroots, and as big as we get, we still work hard to preserve that grassroots feeling. We work side by side in kitchens. We work side by side with teachers and principals. We are in schools. At the same time, we are working for systems change, to work with the federal lunch program to improve those meals and to train cooks on those meals. So it's really this top down working with districts and bottom up working in the schools. And same thing with the recess program, bottom up on the recess yard, top down with policies and programs to extend recess. Sometimes recess may be the only time of day that many kids get to play because they're not being carted off to a fancy after school sports program or whatever. You don't have the facilities, you don't have whatever you have. So right. That recess time, we're trying to capitalize on something that already exists, but improve it.
I love that. I mean, what a journey, what a mission, what a great cause. I mean, how many days, what are you working, 9 days a week?
You see the gray hair?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, I wasn't going there. You went there. But so I want to frame it up a little bit, but the scale of what you're doing. But before I do that, I want to go back to the very beginning, and I'd like for you to reflect back on what, looking back, it was at Ella Baker School, New York School, public school number 225. Yeah. So what's that when you think about that and you're looking back at that? Tell me what your memory is of that moment, and what you think about and how you makes you feel.
So many things as you're talking. I think first of all, how kind of innovative we were. Like we actually developed a class. So Ella Baker was from 3-year-olds up to 8th grade. In the middle school, I worked with this amazing teacher and I'd forgotten about this until you asked, wrote a curriculum that was called Who is Food? And we taught them about what is behind the people behind all the food they're eating. And we did cooking classes and nutrition classes and marketing exercise. So that was a curriculum piece. But the part that was like literally, and I'm thinking, I can date things by the age of my children. I had a newborn. I was working there when she was born, but then she became 3. So this daughter is now a sophomore in college. So she was part of a class of 3-year-olds. So this was an amazingly progressive school building, Ella Baker. There were many other schools in the building. I think 4 high schools. There was what's called a life program. So if you were a baby born to any of the students in the school, my mom and dad could have been there. You could have your baby, and then the baby would come to our school for 3-year-old to 4, all the way up to 8th grade. Right. Not to encourage the baby having, but to discourage the dropping out. So feel like I had, or this is what I thought then. I look, when you get older, the narrative becomes perfect, right? So we had this perfect class of, I think it was 16 or 18 kids who were 3, who had lunch in their classroom. They everything was sort of contained because they were babies, but it was this amazingly diverse makeup of students. It was my daughter and the principal's daughter, so we had the AP and the principal's daughter. We had teachers' kids, then we had the kids of teenage moms. It was just an unbelievably diverse socioeconomic, race, everything group of kids. So I'm like, perfect place to show school food how to feed kids lunch.
Right.
So, here I am telling them how to do their work with 18 kids. So, and by the way, the first field trip that the teacher took with these kids was to McDonald's. So I'm like, okay, I got a lot, sorry, McDonald's, but I got a lot of work to do here. So anyway, I'm rambling, but the point is the kids were, they all qualified for free lunch. They could go and get the meal, but we had them only take a drink and fruit. And then we had parents pay what you can. So we had everyone paying. It was like a monthly thing. You could pay everything from nothing to $20, about whatever it was. And we used those dollars to work with local restaurants. Candle Cafe, if you know them, they were the top vegan restaurant in New York City. Slice Pizza. You might know the twins. Oh God, I'm going to forget their name. It'll come to me. They had a pizza that's no longer, this is a long time ago. Nothing is around anymore, but they had pizza that the sauce was chock full of veggies and the whole wheat crust, and they had soy cheese as well as dairy cheese. So this was all, we would order this food, or I had volunteer chefs cooking for me in this makeshift kitchen that was literally this wide, so that when I had to cook when I was pregnant, that's right, I was pregnant with the other kid, I couldn't even fit in the kitchen. And, you know, they're volunteers, so they would leave like after, you know, a month or two when they get a job, which I'd hope they get a job. So we had them cooking for the kids on the other 3 days. So anyway, I was like, this is how you're supposed to feed kids, you know, with, you know, fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And so thinking back to it, I think that everything that I have done in life has been 99% naivete. And I dive in and just figured out, and, you know, who am I to show the largest, you know, the largest government agency in the country after the military how to feed children. But my daughter wasn't going to eat that stuff, so nor was the other kids, right?
Well, hey, look, Lewis and Clark didn't have a map, right? They just went for it. So who cares, right? That's where innovation, that's where ideas, that's where things come from. So now let me fast forward a little bit and do kind of a by comparison at this point. Yeah. So, you know, looking at the numbers. So tell me, what does working with over 95,000 kids in 190 schools feel like?
Yeah. So, I made a lot of, I thought I was making friends along the way, but I remember the person who's in charge of Manhattan came to, like, he's coming to meet you. I'm like, oh, he wants to meet me, but he basically wanted to reprimand me. So, but I got to know everybody working in school food and actually doing this very, very, very difficult work. And, and something that I'm not saying this to be nice, but too many times do I hear food service directors, operators who run city agencies for school meals talk about how hard it is. And they don't say that because they don't complain, but their actions and sort of how it is so hard to feed a child a healthy meal. Mm-hmm. And that is effed up. Like, why should that be so hard? Right. So, I have such respect and admiration and, and empathy, because we work together now very, very closely, the districts that we work in, particularly New York. And it's not easy. And how can we, you know, so now what are we doing now? So we partner with the districts that we work with to first help write recipes that are plant forward, that are scratch cooked, that are culturally relevant, and then train school cooks on preparing those menus, those recipes. And then, most importantly, provide education to the children who actually eat the meals. So the education is actually mostly cooking classes and some nutrition classes. And the cooking classes also have nutrition snuck in. But they are actually making vegetarian chili, hummus, things that are on their menu. They're making it in their classroom. They learn about the main vegetable in the vegetarian chili is the bean or pepper. So they cut peppers. And after the class, of course, everyone loves it because they made it themselves and they learned about it and the whole thing. And they're like, this is delicious. And the teacher says, guess what? You can get that on your menu on Friday or on Tuesday or on Wednesday, whenever it's on the menu. So these cooking classes are our best marketing tool to help support the food that's being served in the kitchen. So it's again, that systemic piece with the bottom up piece. So, and I'm not doing it myself at all. I have lots of chefs out there in the kitchens. You know, no longer am I like trying to move in the kitchen with my big belly. But we're working top down to work on menu and recipe development.
Sure.
On training the school cooks. They're one of our biggest audiences now, is school cooks around the country. And then, of course, the babies who are eating this food and you know, it's not stuff that they may be seeing. Some, because of the culturally relevant piece, a lot of it they are seeing, but because of, you know, what's cheap and easy and on the corner, they're not used to food that isn't processed. So we're doing an education around that, and they love it. They get so excited, which then helps to promote and market what's happening in the cafeteria. So what does it feel like? It's overwhelming, mostly when I you know, hear about all the challenges, or when I hear that this has to be fixed or that has to be fixed or this is not going right. But, you know, the other thing that you learn is you get the gray hairs that, you know, every day is not going to be perfect. And there's going to be a challenge in our face, and we're going to figure it out, and we're going to move on and do it differently or the same, or, you know, do better tomorrow, you know?
Yeah. But that running around in Florida was a good baseboard, right? I mean, think about
Right?
it. You've
Right?
got that, you know what it's like, you know what it felt like. You have that perspective of what it felt like then, and you can carry that forward, and you're passing that on now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
It is. But the kids have to love it. I would imagine that there's got to be a lunch has to become what I think lunch should be. It should be almost an event for kids. It's a way to socialize. You're going to learn more at the lunch table in a lot of ways. They're going to learn in the morning, perhaps. But you create that better vibe and better energy. It translates.
I'm so glad you said that, because lunch needs to be that. And again, our systems, our principles, whatever else, they're taught not to prioritize that and not to look at lunch as a teachable moment, as a time. I mean, all those skills are the most important life skills, right? Getting along with others, having conversation, asking curious questions, all of that happens at lunch. And it happens in the classroom, but very structured, but you're doing it in an organic way at lunch. And then, of course, being nourished. And another big piece that I just want to point out is that there's salad bars in the schools now, post-pandemic again. And that having that choice is awesome for kids as well, to be able to take their greens, take a composed salad. And guess what? They made that salad dressing in their WITS lab cooking class. So I'm going to put a little bit of that homemade dressing on my salad. So that lunch experience, it's not yet there. And it needs to be a priority. The best of principals know it's a priority and won't cut from one time, won't demonize that lunch, and won't make it, but it's a special, important part of the day. But right now it's definitely not as important as the football games or as math and English and all that. So
yeah, I think that to your point, it's a learning opportunity. I think we put that opportunity to teach them about food and health and where it's at, make that a part of that experience, that communal. Again, how are we all working to become a better group of global citizens? I just think it's a good lift that's worth investing in, because I think you're going to see positive results. I think it'd be very easy to start to measure some of the issues that, whether it be, attendance, maybe it's attitude, problems, detention rate, all those things. What could be
test scores?
Yeah, I was trying to get it. I couldn't. I thank you for saying it, because, like, God darn it, I was on the Forbes. Like, I know there's another one. I can't get off the back of my brain. But
That's well, because it's what you've blocked it out, because they're traumatized. They're traumatic. But it's all that unfortunately people care about. And I'm often saying, if you let them run around and play, I promise you they'll do better on their test scores. If you feed them a nourishing, delicious meal, I promise you they'll do better on their test scores. Who cares about studying late into the night? So, there's that.
100%. We know too, and a lot of people don't, and maybe they do, maybe they don't, but I know there's a lot of kids who get their last real meal on Friday at school, and the next real meal is Monday morning back at school. And that's really kind of a sad, scary thing that I think, again, it's another part of that conversation I want people to digest. Like, really, that happens. Like that happens a lot. Yes. And it's dangerous, right? It's bad. To your point, there's no good that's coming from that. There's no good health. Kids don't need to fast. There's none of that. I mean, it's just not. And what they do get in that period of time is certainly not in their best interest. And so I frame that up for you because I want to talk about what Scratchworks is. And I'd like for you, if you wouldn't mind, share about that, because it's killer.
Yeah. Thank you. And just to drive that home too, that's, again, this access piece, the school meals, and big shout out to all the schools and the cooks who were there in the pandemic when that really was a place, that families were getting their meals. And I don't know why I thought about this when you were talking, but just also when I keep saying how it's so hard, I left out sort of what the amount, the dollar spending. It's $1 per kid per meal. You try to go have a nice, healthy, delicious lunch on that, so there's that issue, but for school meals. So that has to change if I'm putting any plugs here. But so Scratchworks, and to your point also about kids going home on a Friday, our federal lunch program feeds 32 million children. And, based on the lunch, we fill out the forms for who qualifies for free lunch. 22 million qualify, which means they live below the poverty level, depending on sort of where that is in your state or whatever. So that's a lot of children who go home hungry, who will be hungry on Sunday, when they come back to school on Monday. So in New York City, I think we feed 1 million some children. It's 75% live below the poverty level. So again, 750,000 kids who will be hungry when they come to school on Monday. So this amazing opportunity to do right by those kids, amazing opportunity in schools, right? Because it is federally funded. Not enough dollars, but it is federally funded. But Scratchworks. So quickly, I I was staring at this is about 10 years ago now. God, now I'm staring at a different round number, but I was staring at a round number. You know how that goes. And thinking this work that we're doing, I guess I've been doing it for, 10 odd years, maybe more. We're not moving the needle fast enough. Here I am, this small, I did think I was going to change, school food with that 16 classes of kids, but I got a little wiser and realized that we're a small nonprofit, working side by side with school meals, and we couldn't do it alone. So what we did in the summer of 2019, I brought with many partners and many thought partners, brought together who we thought were the most progressive, forward-thinking districts in the country. There were 6 districts: Boulder, New York City, Arlington, Virginia, Washington, D.C., I'm going to forget, Minneapolis, there's one more. Anyway, brought them together to innovate. It was called the School Food Innovation Lab at the time. Mm-hmm. And so we spent 2 days in New York City, funded by the Lifetime Foundation, to innovate, to what's wrong with school food? How can we change it from within the system? Like, I'm a small nonprofit outside the system. We walked out of that with Scratchworks. We said we don't want it to be one logo, not one person could do it alone. So that was the summer of 2019. We, fast forward to the next year was 2020. So it's been a slower start than we want, mostly because the whole idea was that we would then convene. We would be sort of we call it a collective, a modern day trade organization, if we will. We don't want it to be so bureaucratic and tradey. It's a collective where we're supporting districts who want to move to scratch cooking without judgment. You might be in the very beginning and you want to move one baby step. You might be, heat and serve to opening from a box, what have you. And you want to move, and you might be ready to move to like garden to cafe. Wherever you are on that continuum, we want to help you move along that. So it's a collective to do that. The idea is we were kicking off the collective with our first gathering, which we didn't want to do virtually. So we're finally doing this next April. It's been pushed off, as you can imagine, every year. But next April in Austin, Texas, that's one of our districts. It's the one I forgot, in Austin. Where we will bring together 100 food service directors to learn with and from each other. It's an organization for and by food service directors. And it's facilitated now by our donors, Whole Kids Foundation, the Lifetime Foundation, and by the facilitating partners, Wellness in the Schools and the Chef Ann Foundation. So we're all sort of, as a side job, facilitating this to bring together, because everyone is so passionate about this and knows that it has to be a collective effort. And we're working on both policy to get scratch cooking as a definition legislatively, and a bill to be able to give districts funding to be able to cook from scratch. So we're working on a policy level because that's what our food service directors asked for, again, for and by them. And then we're doing this convening, which will then provide mentorship and resources to help food service directors move along that continuum. I made it sound like it's really easy, but and it's a heavy lift, and I'm just very excited for April to see what comes out of that energy and enthusiasm, because it will be the first time. A lot of this has just been planning on paper and working with the operators and working with the facilitators, but that's what Scratchworks is meant to be, and it will soon stand alone. It's now under Wellness in the Schools as an initiative, but it will be standing alone as an effort for and by food service directors.
I absolutely love it. And something that you said I have to bring up is the policy part, right? And getting involved and being able to change policy, because, democracy has a lot of doors, but if we don't use them, it doesn't really benefit us in any capacity. And I think that it's so important to recognize that the government is here for us, whether you believe it or not, no matter how cray-cray things may be, or how cray-cray you think they are. Yeah. They want the public to be a part of their partnership. They want information. They want to know what they need to do to make changes. These folks have kids too. These career people at the USDA, wherever, FDA, wherever there's some wonderful people doing some big work that people that they never get thanked for. So I'm going to give a shout out to those folks. Thank you. Yes, agree. We need to be at the table and help inform and bring to light these things and bring solutions. Like, we need to do this, and here's why. It's so powerful. So I commend you guys. I think it's going to be great.
Well, commend the food service directors. I have to be honest with you. I am not a policy person, and I have become one through Scratchworks. I am, as you can probably imagine, like, a problem, fix it, do or get it done. And oh my God, when you're working with the government, how long does it take? But you live long enough, and actually the changes do happen. So I'm not going to say I'm a convert, but I so appreciate that the food service directors asked us to look at this on a policy level and to not just try to start in the bottom up. So Yeah. So and we hired a firm to help us to write these legislation and to meet with legislators. And so I am a bit of a convert, and I do. It's so cool to see it happening and to sit down with Kirsten Gillibrand and ask her to take this to to find a bipartisan partner to bring it to a bill. So it's exciting, and we'll see.
Oh, I think it's great, and I think I can't wait to watch. I can't wait to see. I can't wait to hear how it goes and what's going to happen to it, because it's so necessary. I think you're going to find a very receptive audience when you get to Washington, D.C., quite frankly.
Bring me back on in 10 years when I'm staring at the next number, okay?
If we're still doing it, yeah, well, all right, it's a date.
That was a joke.
Yeah, well, I know, but I was working with it too. I was working with side the parameter. We'll make a date on it, but we'll have to firm it up in a bit.
Thanks for joining the Todd-versation. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hello, this is Jesse from Superior Fresh. Check us out at www.superiorfresh.com to learn more about how we raise our Atlantic salmon without the use of hormones, antibiotics, or pesticides. Our Heart Check certified salmon boast 2 times the omega-3s of other salmon and are fed an organic and non-GMO diet. Our fish thrive in water naturally filtered by our USDA certified organic greens, which allows us to recycle 99.9% of our water. This is salmon as it should be. Order Superior Fresh salmon direct to your home by shopping with us online. And listeners of this episode can use the discount code TLC15 to receive 15% off your order. We make it easy to get the best salmon in your homes and on your plates. We've got you covered. Superior salmon equals superior taste. Shop now and use code TLC15 for 15% off through the end of the month.
So let's talk. I want to drill down a little bit to some more of your work, if you wouldn't mind, because you've got some really, really cool programs, and there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Cook for Kids, I think, is super cool. You want to touch on that? I think Coach for Kids is another really great one. With that incredible, I don't know. Just go. You've got them. For kids, whatever. Just talk to me about it.
Thank you again. I've kind of touched on them along the way, and I appreciate you asking about Coach for Kids because this is I often do food talks, so I want Coach to get the same props that Cook gets. But so each of these programs are just and Scratchworks even to an initiative. But those are our main programs, and I think when I did talk about the top down and bottom up, they fall under different programming. So Cook for Kids is this program of working in school kitchens, teaching cooking classes. Those cooking classes are called our WITS Labs, which I saw you asked about. So that's the WITS Lab, which is part of Cook for Kids. But Let me touch on Coach for Kids too and Green for Kids quickly. So Coach for Kids, same idea. We're hiring coaches. They're being trained with us. They're placed in schools to work on that in the recess yard. So it's lunch and recess go hand in hand. So the idea of our grassroots programming is healthy lunch, more positive, active recess experience, back to class, ready to focus and learn. With that long-term goal that we're teaching skills and helping to develop habits for a lifetime of good health. So those two programs really go hand in hand, Cook and Coach, and the systemic change around the coach is really restructuring that recess yard, advocating for longer periods and that kind of thing, and recess after lunch and whatever else. But the coaches become mentors, become role models for the kids on the recess yard. They play quarterback on the football team. They point guard on the basketball. They're really just playing with kids, and our motto there is let kids play. But they're also in the school for 5 hours. So they do fitness breaks throughout the day. They do family fitness fun nights for whole families. So it's really modeling, not one sport, just getting kids active. And then quickly on the green. So some may argue we're trying to spread ourselves a little too thin, but when we first started, it's like, if a school is going to be healthy, it has to have all of these things. And then, you look at our logo, I'm like, we can't get rid of one of our logos. So the Green for Kids, the goal was to have gardens in all of our schools. And we do that mostly with partners. We don't have a specific garden program, although we have brought hydroponics into schools with someone else. We work with the edible schoolyards of the world. We work with, small window boxes. We really partner with anyone who does gardening, and there's so many great programs, particularly here in New York. Ironically, it's not the best season. Our biggest growing season is the summer, but there's indoor gardens, and our role then is to harvest those gardens and do garden to cafe days in the cafeteria, use those gardens for different cooking classes. So we tie it all together. But it's sort of, I guess I would say the oldest sibling is Cook for Kids, and then Coach for Kids, and then Green for Kids.
I love it.
Programs. Yeah.
It's so well, and I love your top-down approach. I love that you're trying to find every hole and patch it and get that boat, rising back up again. Cause I think it's so powerful. And I think it's the right thing to do because all of it connects, all of it intertwines. Getting kids to understand, watching somebody put a box up and grow a basil plant in the window, and then that becomes a part of something they eat at lunchtime.
Yeah.
That connective energy, that connective tissue is you're right. It is so important, so real. And I think that those lessons, again, those bottom rung of the ladder lessons that you're instilling right now, they're going to make, no matter how wobbly life gets going up, that bottom rung is strong. We can sustain a whole heck of a lot. And now you're teaching those positive choices. And kids are going to remember that. Kids are going to go to the store with a different mindset. It's powerful. Yeah. It's incredibly powerful.
I love how you keep saying that, get that bottom rung. So, because there is stability throughout life, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, you can borrow it. I'll give it to you freely right there. Boom. Like it's all yours. But, organizations like yourselves doing such heavy lifting, no matter, if it's this, others, whatnot, are about the people around you. Right. And you surround yourself with an amazing team. You've got an amazing board of directors. You've worked, working through with your staff and your advisors, this and that. And I love asking this question because I think not only is it a good pat on the back to a whole bunch of people that if you want to name them all, that's your call. I ain't doing it. But how important have those voices been to you? And how important are those voices to wellness in the schools through its development and its growth?
Well, I won't, just the same way that I couldn't tell you about the 60 years, I probably won't name everybody. And I'm not 60.
No, I wouldn't do it. That's a death trap right there. You never want to name everybody.
I'm many years below 60. Just want everyone to know that. But anyway, I'm still staring at it. So I'm so glad you asked this question. Thank you. Because I hope that as I walk around this world that I appreciate the team that does all the work as much as I feel about them and as much as I care about, as I hope I express it as much as I feel it. The gratitude for their work is beyond. They are really the change agents, and they come to WITS with skills already as a chef or a coach, but they want to use that skill to help others, which is pretty amazing. And I remember actually one of our restaurant chefs saying, wow, all I wanted to do when I got out of culinary school was go make a shit ton of money and work in a restaurant. And that's not what these folks are doing. And they are just amazing. I'm a progressive educator, so I really do learn every day it's not why I learn every day from folks, but I really do consider myself an active listener. And I learn I get feedback often. I ask for feedback, and we really do shape, and we have our structure and our plan, but we shape the way we do things based on a lot of what people are hearing in the field, which is amazing. And I think also we have an unbelievably collective diversity of folks, and not just by skin color, but really background and depth of experience. But the skin color piece is actually incredibly important. We've been very deliberate in our hiring so that the folks that work in schools look like and are role models for the children. And that's incredibly powerful. And our country is learning that more and more, but we've been doing that from the very beginning. So I think just about our team, I used to say when we were really teeny, when I'd talk to sort of mentors or folks, like, we're only good because our people are so good. And how do you replicate good people? And I finally learned, because, it's hard to do, right? That you create a good culture and those good people come. And so we've worked really hard at that. And again, I'm not going to mention names, but there are just so many incredible, like when we first started with, actually, the idea was that it was a little bit, we modeled it after Teach for America, where you sort of go in and you do this work for 2 years, then you move on. And so, and fortunately, hopefully move on to the same field. But we have had folks who've been with us from the very, very beginning. And it's, I've seen babies be born. I've seen babies turn into teenagers and go off to college for our team. And we're an amazing team. And I feel so lucky to be working with them. And then of course our board is just very supportive. They're my bosses, but I feel like they, in the same way I listen to my team, they listen to me and really are supportive of the things that I feel like we need to grow the organization. And again, incredible diversity from backgrounds to skin color, from finance to communications to chefs to educators. And so we really have a great range of skills that come to the board. And they are incredible sounding boards. I've got many of them on speed dial. I can call all the time, Sunday morning running somewhere, and they're always available because they're incredibly passionate. Everyone, No one does this work everyone does this work because they're so passionate about it. And you feel it every day. And it's so rewarding.
100%. And that's why I keep talking about it, because I find myself like, wow, we have a platform out here that touches around the globe. And, this whole platform is based off inspiration, and being able to elevate these conversations is, to me, incredibly important. And that's a hill I'll die on, keeping these conversations in the forefront, because we have to keep having them, because just in what we've touched on so far, the reality of what we've touched, which is, everything that y'all are doing and the statistics and where it's at. We got to fix it. We got to fix that, right? I mean, we have the power, we have the ability, we have the time, we have the energy, we can do it.
Yeah.
Right. We just got to get our heads wrapped around it. One of the things you touched on, and I got to get into it because it's a big lift, is money, right? I mean, it's a part of what it is. This is not a cheap endeavor to do. You guys are doing a lot. You guys, fundraising is a big part of what you do. I'd like for you to talk, if you wouldn't mind. You got a big fundraiser you guys do at the Met. I don't think it's probably as funky as the one with people in metal dresses and stuff, but it could be. I don't know. I haven't been yet. But
it was sneaker chic. So we had sneakers with our fancy dresses. So that's cool.
I'm in right there. I mean, I got that covered. Talk a little bit about your fundraiser at the Met. What's it about? How was it? All that kind of stuff. What you accomplished, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Well, to be fair to us, or to the Met, this is actually our first year that we did it at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. We've changed the venue over time. Our board member and executive chef, Bill Telepan, is now the culinary director at the Metropolitan, at Bon Appetit Management, which does the food for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So when he got that job in February of 2020, when he spent a whole year making sandwiches for security guards, but he got the job, we were like, we have to do a gala at the Met. And then of course, post-pandemic. So we hadn't done a gala in 3.5 years. And one of our board members said, we got to go big or go home, for many reasons. I mean, finally, our country realized the importance, not hopefully, of health and wellness, as we saw a health crisis in our country. Yeah. And so for programming reasons, they wanted to go big or go home, but also in terms of raising money. So we went big. I mean, you can't get much bigger than the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And, I was a little overwhelmed, but I really made a point to stop and look at the sun setting in the Temple of Dender and all these amazing chefs. It is sneaker chic because it's a stand-up tasting event. So
sure. Yeah.
And it was a beautiful evening, but most importantly, the New York City Public Schools Chancellor, David Banks, came up on stage with me and shared news about our growth, which was just really exciting. And so everything about the night was incredibly special. We actually also honored a founding board member of Wellness in the Schools and my dear friend who passed away during COVID of ovarian cancer. And so it was a lot of emotion, and she loved to party. So she really, the gala was her big. I mean, every year she was our graphic designer. So every year she really planned a beautiful design theme around it. So we honored her.
It's a to-do.
Yes, absolutely. So it was just the combination of honoring Susan and raising dollars and announcing our growth in New York City was really a very special night. So thank you for asking about it.
Oh, absolutely. I got to ask a little bit, two things. One of which, you mentioned something, I think if the government was in the business of putting gyms up, seriously, like, government run 24-hour fitnesses, we'd have a whole different narrative in this country. Just a thought to plant in the back of your head.
I like it. You're right.
You talked about the pandemic a little bit, and I want to come back around it. I mean, that was something, right? I don't have to get into it. I think we can all just call that, boy, that was something. Yeah. But did that reinforce, your belief in fixing this broken school, the broken system around children's nutrition? Seeing that, going through that experience? Because look, you were in the hot spot in New York, right? I mean, you guys were, ground zero in a lot of ways for that. I mean, did that tweak you a little bit when you saw that and where you're heading and what you all are doing?
Well, I mean, you didn't need to convince me, And first of all, what the city did, and I said this before, and what many cities did in small towns to feed children during the pandemic was beyond, and the hard work that they did to package things, and unfortunately, so much of it was packaged because we
didn't know.
Didn't know, but what they did was magnanimous. But coming out of it, I don't need to be convinced of that we have a health crisis, right? And I again, don't quote me on the statistic, but I think it was revealed that 63% of our hospitalizations and deaths could have been prevented by better diet. So we know who was dying in COVID. Right. we're only 4% of the global population, but we had 16% of the COVID deaths and cases. And it's because our country is sick. So we went into a pandemic already sick. So I don't need convincing, but I think I think it's why we are where we are today with WITS, and why we're expanding so rapidly, and why there's so much attention, and why people are coming to me to want to support. I think that our country is realizing, and our country is realizing, the importance of, health and fitness and diet on our health. Food, food and diet, food and fitness.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, look, I say this, and I say this from a good spot. This pandemic has given us the best runway to change the American diet than we've ever had in the history of this country since they invented potato chips.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's true.
Yeah, it's true. And we have to take advantage of it. It's something it's a drum I've been beating, that folks made a conscientious change. They're thinking, they've been put in front of them, 4 comorbidities to a death with person with COVID, that, you don't know what that means. Look it up. And we don't get deplatformed, but it is that the time is never going to be better for folks like you and folks like me and people 3 blocks over from me that I don't know, to all step up and make a change all the way around in this country, because this is a game that everybody can win. And that's what's so cool. And the opportunity lays in front of us.
Yes. I love how you frame it as positive, because it is, and it can be, it will be.
Yeah. 100%. So tell me, what's next? What's going on? Drop a big secret. I mean, we got Scratchworks in April, which I can't wait. What else? Come on. Tell me something.
Yeah. So I think
what's going on in 2023 besides Scratchworks?
There's a lot. So, but you mentioned there's no better time than now, or it's giving us a runway, whatever the language you use is great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And also so we work nationally, but New York City is our center, where we do most of our work. And it's our epicenter. I was trying to think of the word I was thinking for. New York City is our epicenter. And we work in most of our schools here. And when you talk about the time being right, yes, coming off of a pandemic, but also we have a mayor and a chancellor and a leader of the school meals who's new. He also came in, I think, right before the pandemic, who prioritize health and wellness, and who understand the concept of food as medicine, and who recognize the great power and opportunity that they have. I mean, our mayor is a vegan mayor, as you probably know, or mostly vegan mayor. And so what's next is that, and if we can make it here, we can make it anywhere, right? So what the chancellor announced at the gala was that WITS Wellness in the Schools has formed together with them a chef's council of, celebrity chefs like Rachel Ray, and not so celebrity chefs like local amazing chefs, or one of our WITS staff members, Ricardo Diaz. I will mention one. So we've put together a chef's council who are developing these recipes. So it's kind of what we've been doing for 17 years, but it's being given the attention. As you said, we finally have this runway, and we have a like-minded mayor, and a like-minded Office of Food Policy, and a like-minded chancellor, and a like-minded school food leader. So what's next is that we are going to be training this year is testing those recipes with kids, testing them with the chefs, and then tasting them with kids, getting feedback from kids this entire school year on North African gumbo, and it's the recipes are culturally relevant, scratch cooked, and plant-based, and I'll keep repeating that a million times. And so and again, what we've been doing all along, but giving it now a platform. So we will be testing them this year, and then next year we will be placing with chefs at scale, and 120 chefs to then help train the school cooks on implementing those recipes. And then, of course, following it with our education program, and really working with all of our partners in the city, because this is now the whole city, to help educate on the why behind this kind of food, and nutrition classes, and cooking classes, and gardening classes. So really engaging. What's next is a holistic engagement, really led by the city, and asking us to be their partners. And that is just like, I feel so humbled. And I think it is 17 years of, you asked about our team, of people working, building trust, working side by side in kitchens, treating people kindly, listening to where people are coming from, and helping them to get to the next place. Doing this day after day after day for 17 years has really gotten us to this place where we've been invited in, and we've been trusted to help move the needle. So I'm not sure you're expecting that answer. If I'd given this talk a month ago, I couldn't have said that. So it's really exciting. And I'm just, again, honored and humbled to be sitting, you know, I don't want to say at the doorstep, sitting side by side. I mean, we were at headquarters yesterday tasting these amazing, you know, a lo mein by Chef Anita Lowe, a tofu lo mein, and this North African gumbo, and just amazing dishes with these chefs, and then giving them feedback to get them ready for the kids.
Absolutely.
So it's real great stuff, and working so closely in partnership with districts, which I just love.
Absolutely. So can I put Saint in front of your name? Can we just call you Saint Nancy? Can we do that now?
Don't do that. The pressure of perfection, the pressure of saintlyhood. No, don't do it.
I love it. I've got to tell you, I've enjoyed learning what y'all are doing, and I have absolutely enjoyed hanging out with you today. You are such a source of inspiration. You are a light. You are a light right now that we need. Your work, your team. I don't know how to thank all of them. You can do it for me. Hopefully I'll watch it. Hey guys, I'm thanking all of you right here. But you know, you've got a big lift. You're doing it. You're doing it without hesitation. You're all in. You know, I keep going back to what you said about your mom and how you were as a kid. And I see that. I think I could almost see you as a kid today. What was in your heart back then, who you were, I don't know. I'm just having some weird epiphany moment, but I can see it translating here. And it radiates out of you, the love that you have for what you're doing, your team, these kids, and your mission. You got me today, man. I'm telling you, you're my inspiration. You're my inspiration point today. And I'm just so proud of what you all are doing. And just like I said in the beginning, and I say it again, it is an honor to have you on my broadcast. It really, really is.
Well, it goes back, the honor goes back to you, because honestly, like, you ask such thoughtful questions to really bring out the greatness of this work. You get it. You know, it is about the people, and I so appreciate that. You know, thank you. And obviously your great humanity brings out the best in others. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey, open invitation. Will you please come back?
And 10 years. No, I'm just kidding. I'll come back anytime.
I'm telling you, that's a soft yes on that 10-year date. I'm telling you right now.
Let's hope that I'm here next year with all these policy changes. Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, you're going to be in Washington, D.C. more than you probably think. Don't worry. But it's the policy part, getting into D.C., talking to the members up on the Hill is so much fun, because they want to know and they want to learn. Yeah. And just get all the sound bites out of your head and just walk in there with an open heart. And I'm telling you, you're going to have a great experience.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Please come back. I'd love to have you anytime.
Thank you.
Keep talking this conversation. It's incredibly important to us. It's something we believe in, something we're going to continue to do. So please, open invitation anytime to share. So cool.
Awesome.
Hey, everybody. I told you it's a great show. I set it up. I didn't disappoint. St. Nancy is out of control. We need to be supporting this. Get online, get on the Google machine, type it in there. You all know how to do it. See what they're up to. Be a part of it. Contribute. Learn. Call them. Get it in your school. Pick up the phone. Be a part of it. Make a change, right? Listen, we're talking now about how to get more involved in curriculum. This is just as important, kids. Figure out what these kids are eating, how you can make a difference. Make that curriculum matter, because we're feeding them good food. So go do it. I say it all the time. Go out and inspire somebody today. If I can't get some inspiration out of you after talking to St. Nancy, I know what the hell to do for you. I don't know if it's a Red Bull. I don't even know. But let's figure it out and make a change in this planet. This is how we're going to do it. This is one of those steps we all need to take. So thank you for listening. Check us out on social media, TLC Todd-versations. We're there because the Kardashians are. That's the only reason I'm on social media. And, check us out. Like, review, listen to us, send us your ideas. Come on, share your story, whatever. Let's make it happen. Let's keep this conversation going. St. Nancy, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. You made my absolute day today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Be good. We'll see you soon.